Brave New You is a self-improvement group that was founded a year or two ago in an effort to help people that are struggling to find balance, people that are dealing with trauma, also in an effort to help people that are struggling with addiction. With My Brave Botanicals, we sell Kratom, and many of our customers struggle with addiction. So we wanted to strike the root of what's going on with many people's issues. And today we're going to be talking about the power of mindfulness and the importance of mindfulness. Really, mindfulness is a foundational component of any self-improvement activity, being mindful. What do you mean? What do I mean by mindful? Well, I mean being fully present in the moment, free of judgment, just accepting things as they are and living in the present. There's a quote, I think it's Sun Tzu, but it's like, those who focus on the past are depressed, those who focus on the future are anxious, and those who focus on the present are at peace. And that's because, well, unless you're being tortured, things going on in the present are usually pretty good. And when you're mindful and when you can focus on abundance and gratitude and joy and find all the love and beauty in the world, when you're mindful, when you don't have that internal dialogue going, throwing you off, spouting negativity, regurgitating doubts that were planted in your mind by family, society, friends, significant others, you see that there's a lot of beauty in the world, right? Mindfulness is also important as a foundational component for any self-improvement activity, because one thing that I've struggled with in the past and in the present is anger and frustration with family things, with business, with former significant others, where there just gets this tension, and I'll lash out, raise my voice. I haven't done this in a really long time. I'm proud and happy of that, but I would slam my hand on a table and I'd get really mad. It would be really scary. And it's not ideal. It's not me living within my values. And I came to realize that I knew that was a problem, and I knew how I could step out of that. Being mindful in the present moment, breathing, starting to notice those strong emotions, the feelings that are associated with those emotions. And before I have an outburst, taking a second to breathe, which we're going to talk about in a sec. But whenever you're not mindful, and whenever you haven't practiced mindfulness, which is an ongoing practice, an ongoing improvement, it's harder to carry out, to follow through with what you read about in the Buddhist book or in the self-improvement book, or when you watch that YouTube video with the great advice on how to be more patient with your children. You get worked up in the moment, you're not fully present in the moment, and your emotions are getting the best of you and taking you on a ride where you may end up acting in a way that's not in line with your values. Now contrast that with being zenned out, practicing mindfulness, breathing, meditating, doing yoga, doing mindful walking. You've practiced. So you're mindful in the present moment. There's a fight going on with your spouse, and it's just back and forth. People aren't seeing eye to eye, and you're starting to notice that tension that's building up in your chest. And because you're mindful and you know the value of mindfulness, you've been paying attention to that. And you know that when you start to feel that tension, man, that means that there's some anger coming, some frustration that's really strong. And so if you're mindful in the present moment, you can catch that feeling. When that feeling begins to arise, you can recognize it, and you can say, I'm feeling a little angry right now. I think I know why. I have some needs that aren't being met. I don't feel like I'm being heard right now. I'm not being listened to, and that's leading me to be angry. Okay, anger is a signal that something's off. And I'm just going to sit with that and pay attention, take a breath. If you're mindful, you can also preemptively talk with your significant other, with your children. Hey guys, I noticed that we've been really fighting a lot and things have been escalating a whole lot. Is it okay if we adopt a policy where we can take a time out when things start to get really heated? And then if you're mindful in the moment, oh man, I feel like I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. Hey, I'm feeling like this isn't really working for me right now. I'd like to take a break so we can cool down a little bit, maybe pick up this conversation later. I'm going to go on a walk, right? That's how mindfulness, again, it's a foundational component. If you're not mindful in the present moment, it's really difficult to execute the practices that you may have learned about or that you're excited that'll help you grow, okay? Also, when it comes to addiction, being mindful in the present moment enables you when that craving starts to come or whenever you have that trigger. For example, people that smoke cigarettes. I would smoke cigarettes socially and occasionally, and at times I would smoke them a little bit more, right? I was never a guy that bought packs regularly all the time. I usually bum them from friends or stuff when we're drinking around and stuff. But there was a period where I was spending time with someone that would smoke cigarettes regularly, and I would smoke them. And she quit, which was awesome. And I quit too. I don't want to smoke, especially to not cue her. But I noticed in myself that after I would eat a big meal, especially a big meal where I enjoyed a cocktail or two, I'd have a craving for a cigarette. And I would notice that craving, right? So a lot of people that aren't fully present, that aren't practicing mindfulness, when the craving and that urge comes, the trigger, for some people that use really hardcore drugs, they use it to mask the pain of a trauma. And so whenever they're thinking about that, they're starting to feel depressed that their parent died recently, for example, or that they were thinking about abuse from their childhood, that would be their trigger that initiates a craving, right? But if you're mindful and you feel that trigger, oh, there it is, I recognize it. Okay, I'm going to go on the walk now instead of going to drink that beer. Or I'm going to suck on a toothpick now instead of going for that cigarette. Mindfulness can just help and benefit your life in so many different ways. So let's talk about how you can practice mindfulness, how you can get better at mindfulness, right? Meditation essentially is practicing mindfulness. The big game is living mindfully throughout your whole life, and meditation is practicing for that big game. What's a simple way to meditate and practice mindfulness is to be present, fully present with your breath. You don't have to have a mandala or a little tool or beads to count. You can be mindful and present with your breath because it's always there with you, right? And so it's as simple as relaxing, sitting up straight and comfortably, and focusing on your breath. Focus on the sensation as you inhale and as you exhale. Being present with your body. And of course, inevitably, unless you're all booted out, thoughts will pop up in your head. And the thing to do is not to get frustrated, but to be mindful with those thoughts. Oh, okay, I'm thinking about the errands I have to run later today. Okay, that's a thing. Sometimes my mind wanders. That's okay. I'm going to push that thought aside and I'm going to go back to my breath. And that's it. If you do that for 5 minutes a day, it'll greatly increase your happiness and your ability to be mindful in the present moment. Now, I'm not all zenned out and I don't practice meditation nearly as much. I like to do walking meditation because sometimes I find it difficult to be fully chill just sitting, which is really the ultimate, the truest practice, right? Put yourself in a sensory deprivation chamber and practice mindful breathing and you're there, man. But I like to do mindful walking where you're walking through a park and you're just being really fully present with the walk, the way that your body feels when it connects with the earth. Ideally, if you can walk through grass and stuff and be grounded without shoes and really connect with the earth, there's a lot of special energy going on there. And there's birds that chirp, and you're just present with the birds, you're present with the walk. And when a thought pops up into your head, you just recognize it and wash it away. This is how you practice mindfulness. And so it's practice for the big game again. So then when you're dealing with your kid and your kid's refusing to clean up and you got to get going and they're still not dressed and you got to be at that appointment and you were at the appointment late last time and the doctor made a comment or your family made a comment about it and you're feeling real anxious about that and your kid's spouting back and mouthing off to you and you're like, oh my God, I'm fucking mad right now, right? Pardon my French. And you're about to raise your voice or something. That's how things can go. But if you're mindful, you recognize, okay, I'm starting to feel really frustrated. I'm going to take a break here. Okay, it's okay. We may be a little bit late, but what's more important to me than being on time is being a good father and not losing my temper. Okay, I caught that. I had that energy. I'm going to breathe it out. Oh, all right. Everything's going to be okay, right? You can catch it. You can catch when you're going to fight with your spouse. You can catch because you're mindful. You feel those emotions rising when you're going to lose your temper with your kids. You can preempt it. You can preempt it when you feel that craving. That's the power of mindfulness, my friends. This has been a Brave New You segment on the Live Free Now show. Check out the Brave New You self-improvement group on Facebook. Just search Brave New You in the search bar, and there's people that are looking to work with you and to build community with you to help improve their lives. And again, mindfulness is a huge part of it.